All right. Perfect. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. I'm here with my man, Nick, Mr. Viking Power Williams, Vice President of Sales at Viking Power Technologies. Nick, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show for round two.
Yes, sir.
I had you on so long ago, man. How are things? We're going to catch up on all the great stuff you're doing, but how's everything in your world today? It's Friday. I mean, you're not on the golf course. So you must be working like most of us.
That's right. It's month end, man. We got to try to get a few more dollars and cents in. So, but no, man, I really appreciate you having me on. Like
Yeah.
you said, there's been a lot of changes since the last time. I'm a Texan now. So,
Yeah.
moved from Denver. April of 21, I guess, is when we moved down here, and we've just been loving life, man. Moved up to we're in Montgomery,
Okay.
and yeah, found a cool little place on the lake on Lake Conroe, and the
Beautiful.
boys, my three boys are definitely living their best life. So it's fun to
Yes.
watch them growing up in a different environment, and we've adapted to the heat pretty well, and so just enjoying life in general, man.
Man, that's so cool, dude. It's great, like doing things that whether it's a move or a vacation or an experience that you get to do with your kids, and then them light up because of it. As a parent,
Yeah,
it's like the best thing ever, right? And so that's cool, man. So what's like since moving? Because where are you from originally? Or are you from
I'm
Denver?
not from Colorado. No, I was born and raised in Indiana.
Okay,
Um,
that's right.
yeah,
That's right.
born and raised in Indiana, and then I graduated college, moved down to Missouri, and coached college football for 3 years at Missouri Southern. While I
That's
was getting
right.
my master, I was getting my master's degree for 2 of those years, and then lo and behold, I guess tie it all together. I got out of coaching so I could coach my kids one day because I
Mm.
saw that if they ever wanted to play football, the way schedules worked out, I'd never be able to coach them. And so now to this day, I'm eating those words, and I'm not sure if I'm busier coaching football or trying to sell power sections. So
Man, I get it. It's so dude, what do you think about like where you're at now here in Texas? Football is life here for a lot of people. I mean, is it
yes,
a
sir.
different vibe coaching from where you were to here? Like what's that like?
Man, it's all. I think everything is what you make it, right? There is a certain level of I don't know, into it that people are here that may
Yeah.
not be other places. But kids are kids, right? Kids are kids, whether they're here in Indiana or Missouri. And that's the fun part for me is watch them see that light bulb go off and go, oh, that's why you're asking me to do that. Because then we score a touchdown or then we make a tackle and it doesn't hurt or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
kids are kids. I think the level of intensity of the parents may be a little different down here, but so
Yeah. It's so dude, so my son, he's 4,
uh-huh.
and we got him playing flag football on Saturdays. And at first, again, they're young. It's just it's a bunch of kids running around. They see someone
uh,
run, and they don't know why they're running, so then they just start
yeah,
running and like figuring out is like get the ball and go that way. All like the fundamentals of like the game. It's
yeah,
so crazy, but once they start getting it, it's fascinating. And so at home, I've got them like, okay, when you get the ball, don't run backwards. Don't
right.
run away from people, run through
Yes,
them.
that's right.
Like it's
That's right.
man, it's a blast. I kind of help coach. We got a guy who his name's Brad. Uh I forget his last name, but he's got a quarterback he's got a company where he trains quarterbacks,
Oh,
and
no kidding.
yeah, and so his son's 4. He's helped coach and train people from high school to college,
Yeah.
and even some like rookies in the NFL. And this dude's dialed in. And so like I was so fortunate, because we did some sports for our daughter in the same league, and it was like a dad who like had never played or whatever, just trying to
You got
volunteer.
voluntold to do it by the wife, right?
Exactly right. And so,
Yeah.
but like I'm like, oh, cool, like someone who actually understands the game, and he's so good with the kids, and he motivates them, and it's all about like listening and discipline, having fun, and I say all that to say is like I admire your efforts in coaching and doing that, because it takes a lot of time, man. And like when we're growing up, we don't realize there it is. I mean, we don't realize that the amount of time and sacrifice it takes to coach. So I admire you for doing that. You're involved with all kinds of things. But what's I get, real quick before we move on to another topic, is like what's your favorite thing about like coaching kids?
teaching them, I think for me is teaching, is showing them how sports teach life. Everybody's goal when they get into play sports is they want to go play in an NFL on Sundays, or go play in the NBA, whatever. That's
Yeah.
all. That's all fine and well. But for the vast majority of us, I was maybe smart enough early on to know that I wasn't going to go on to do this for a job if it was in a playing capacity. So that's why I wanted to get into coaching. But
Mm.
my college football coach always talked about being an impact man, and that has resonated with me. And how better can you impact young men that are trying to figure out, they're 11 and 12 years old, they don't know, their bodies are changing, their minds are changing, things are going everywhere. And I mean, we say it all the time, I sound like an old man, but like, growing up today, I don't know if I could handle it, all the stuff that they've got going on, and the internet and the videos and the phones and all this other stuff. So just kind of giving them like, hey, here's your 2 hour window of where
Yeah.
you got to think about nothing else but football. And
Yeah.
then at the end of that, I'm going to teach you something you did today that you can take to class tomorrow when somebody knocks you down, or when you get a bad grade. Do we just go in the corner and we shut her down, or are we going to stand up and we're going to go back out and get after it again? So
Yeah.
that kind of thing is making the translation from the playing field to life.
Dude, that shit gives me goosebumps because again, growing up playing sports, there were so many things that I learned that I could translated into life. And, just like from the discipline aspect, the adversity. And nowadays, like, my wife and I and our family, we've been extremely fortunate, from a financial perspective to to not have to worry about a lot of things that other people throughout the US and even the world have to worry about. And so, I always think as like a father to a boy and a girl is like, how do I prepare them for getting punched in the mouth, and instead of just rolling over, like getting up and getting better and learning and using that as fuel to get better. And man, it's just like sports, I don't they're just, and again, I'm biased, but like I don't know anything else that if you're comfortable living in the suburbs and you got food and shelter and nice schools and a loving family, like how do you teach like getting knocked down and getting hit, getting back up? And like I just there's sports is there's just, and I tell that to my wife all the time. She didn't really grow up playing sports and she's
Sure.
starting to see it now. But again, I commend you. I could talk about parenting and fatherhood for forever.
We could
um
do a whole podcast on that, my man.
I know
It's on the mind.
we should. We should do that, dude. I think a lot of people would relate to it. There's a lot of folks that listen that are our age that are probably fathers, but no, we'll save that one for another episode. I think that'd be cool.
Sure.
Lastly, on football, real quick. I mean, it's been the hype of ESPN and the rest of the nation. What do you think about Colorado and Deion Sanders, man? Because that kind of ties into what we're talking about a little bit.
Man, I'll be honest with you. I've never been a good enough athlete to be the guy that can talk all the time. I was kind of a keep my mouth shut, do my job type of guy.
Yeah.
So his way and his mannerisms are things that I've never really related with. But if you truly just go beyond the sunglasses and the hat, and here I am wearing a hat in an interview. I should have put on my glasses, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but if you get past all of that, the words that he's saying and the message that he's given, I mean, if it's all legit, and that's the one thing that I try to tell everybody, like, what's the biggest difference? What was college coaching like and all that stuff? Is it's not what you see.
Mm.
Those 3 years helped me more than anything. Is like, I've got a son playing seventh grade football, and I need to get your other coach's information because he's now playing quarterback, a position I never played and never coached, and I don't know anything about. So I might want to reach out to him. But anyhow, you know what what it's given me is I would never question another coach. We get frustrated that why aren't they doing this, or why you're not in that room. You're not spending all those hours. I mean, these seventh grade coaches here at Montgomery and Lake Creek, there's 200 plus kids out on the football field that they've
Wow.
got to figure out how to coach on a regular basis. And so, so what you see is not always what's going on. The result is not necessarily the work that's being put in. And he's obviously on a much more public stage, but some of the things that he says and the way that he says it and the message that he preaches, I think the one that hit home the most is I'm going to tell these kids the truth. And in this world, we have gotten away from appreciating the truth. We want to hear what makes us feel good.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the truth, whether it makes you feel good or not, because
Wow.
the truth is the truth, right?
Hmm.
And I do admire his. I don't care what anyone thinks about me. I struggle with my perception of, hey man, I really want everybody to like me. I want everybody to be my friend. Why is he, why is this? Why is that? And I think about that a lot. And he said it the other day. He said, "What makes me think? What makes you think that I care about your opinion of me? You didn't make me, so you can't break me." And so listening to stuff like that, that fires me up. And
Dude,
so if that's truly what's going on, if what the what the clicks, as the Oregon coach was calling it, what the clicks are portraying, if that's truly what's happening behind those closed doors, and I would imagine it is, and probably even to a greater level,
yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, besides again, their record and their performance aside, is he's really, again, from my perspective, and like you say, this is we're quite a few degrees of separation from what's actually happening. All I see is
Yep.
what's happening on social media and the
Yep.
news, ESPN. But I mean, he's building young men, and I think he said something to the effect is like a lot of these boys weren't fortunate enough to be raised by a father figure who was there,
That's
who was
it.
present. So he's like, I'm the father. Like I have
Yep.
a responsibility to raise men, and whether or not they get to the league or not, I want them to be better people when they leave my program. Like
Yep.
that in itself is amazing. And so he's taken that responsibility and he's run with it. And again, I think it's a cool story, and whether or not they win any more games or not, I think it's been a successful season, and hopefully he kind
Absolutely.
of changes the landscape a little bit, for maybe other coaches, or just for people to look at things a little
Yeah.
differently. And I respect the living crap out of it. I think it's super cool. But no,
I
I
think it goes
appreciate.
back. I think it goes back to what we were originally talking about, was sports can teach you so much. He didn't have a dad growing up. And
Yeah,
he related to his coaches as his father figure, and
that's
then he
it.
realized that's my ministry, that's what I need to do. And I mean, again, sports could have taught him a lot of things, but it taught him, this was my gift, this is how I got a father, right?
Yeah,
And that's a whole nother podcast about all the things going on in fatherless homes and all that stuff. But like,
yeah,
but he used it as, and this is what I talked to my kids about this weekend. We can look at this and we can feel sorry for ourselves, or we can look at it as an opportunity. And he
yeah.
took it as an opportunity to use his platform to exactly what you said. If they don't win another game, he's changed the lives of a lot of young men. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, no, amen to that, dude. It's super cool. Speaking of clicks and stuff like that, Friday freebies, man. Did you do one today yet or
I
what?
didn't do one today, man. I didn't. I thought about doing one, and I was like, oh, I'll do the podcast with Justin, and I know
Yeah.
it's not live, but we'll get it out there. So I
Oh
need to
yeah.
get back on it. I go in waves, right? And it all started, as you know. I mean, it started during COVID, and it was a
Yeah.
conversation with you that got him started.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about him today as I was kind of doing, just reflecting and getting ready for this. But the more I did them and the more I got into them, I didn't prep for them. I didn't, like, I would just hear something during the week or read something during the week, and it would hit me. And that's what I wanted to talk about that morning. And it was
Yeah.
more just me talking to myself. And I just
Right.
happened to record it and then put it out there, and then people started reacting to it. So
Yeah.
it's been pretty cool.
No, I love it, man. Again, during COVID, there was a lot of people who started kind of, trying the content thing. And I love that you did the Friday freebies, man. I think it was really cool. And it seemed like you got quite a bit of traction with them. And hopefully there was a little bit of benefit there. But at the end of the day, like you said, it was something you just wanted to voice and put it on a platform for maybe to kind of help change other people's minds or give them a little something
Yep.
to think about. And no, man, I think it's great. And again, like you kind of got over the hump of kind of thinking like, oh, should I do this? Should I not? So no, I was, yeah, again, it's like it's so cool to see that, man. But I encourage you to keep doing it, man. And yeah, I'm like you, dude. Like I may go 2 weeks hard and like I just get like all this creative juices going and
Yep.
posting, and it comes so naturally. And then other times if I'm distracted, whether it's like work or just like other things going on, it's like I think that I'm like, I have no idea what to post about. And so it's ebbs and flows. And I find like when I force it, it just doesn't feel right. And so
It
I just
doesn't. Yeah.
I let the again, I let my I'm more I now I post more intuitively, whereas before I was like, I have to post every day. And I think there's a time for that where to kind of like help build that community. But man, there's a reality is like it's tough to do. But no, I encourage you to keep doing it when the time's right and it feels
Yeah.
good. You hit that record button.
You got it, my
Um
man.
Hell yeah. So let's talk about Drive for a Cure. That is something that's you know I think changed the lives talking about that, and making an impact, dude. Like that's been huge. Talk a little bit about the origin story behind that and then how it's grown to what it is now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I have three boys. My wife and I have three boys, and my oldest is now 13 years old, and so he was born with a condition called cystic fibrosis, and it's a
Right.
genetic disease that affects the lungs and the and your um, enzymes in your stomach, and so it affects your digestive system and all kinds of different things. They essentially produce an extra thick mucus that messes up a lot of things. A lot of people have to have lung transplants and all this other stuff. We had never heard of it before, and in our lives, and the greatest blessing we had was the first. We were living in Midland at the time, and the first doctor, the first specialist we saw about it, said, "This disease is what you two are going to make it." And he said, if you treat your son like there's something wrong with him and he's got a sickness and he's got an illness and you put him in a bubble, he's going to be sick. He's going to be, weakly, all this other stuff. He said, but he said, we're going to do all these things. He said, the world of CF is changing. He said, by the time you two are done and gone, there will be a cure for this disease. And this guy was on his way out. It was his last year as a doctor, as a physician. And so that gave us the mindset we needed to attack that part of it, right? So Jackson's been super healthy, never had a knock on wood, never had a hospital stay. There's been some unbelievable advancements in medicine. He's on a drug called Trikafta right now that honestly, it's changed his life. He started growing, he
Wow.
started putting on weight. Like I said, he's playing football, he plays basketball, he golfs. He you wouldn't know there's anything wrong with Jackson until he takes that handful of pills every time he eats. He takes about 25 to 30 pills a day, and then does 2 vest treatments to kind of clear his airways and make sure that. But he does all that in silence, right? He works in silence, and he does. I mean, he doesn't complain about it. And you talk about impacted people. That young man right there is a stud. He's mine, but he is an absolute stud. So
That's awesome.
fast forward, we have and it's a recessive gene, right? So my wife and I were carriers of it, but we didn't know either one of us were carriers of it. So he got the 25% chance of being of having CF. Um, so prayed a lot, asked a lot of questions, and we decided, hey, you know what? It wasn't us that we were blessed with this child from God, as we truly believe that God gave us the opportunity to be parents, and it wasn't right for us to try to stop doing that. So we were going to continue to have kids and that sort of thing. So we had my middle son Brock, who is unfortunately just like me, but he does not have CF. And then along come Lincoln, and the day we were supposed to go in for the final ultrasound, my wife's water broke, and so she went into early labor, and she had to have an emergency C-section. As the doctor is handing me Lincoln, he says, "Does he look like either one of your other sons?" And I was like, "I just went from a room with 2 people to a room with 40 people. You just cut my wife open."
Oh,
Yes, he looks like, but like what, but he knew right away that Lincoln had Down syndrome, and so that wasn't something we were prepared for. It wasn't something we knew about. I mean, we obviously know what Down syndrome is, and we have a cousin whose daughter has Down syndrome, and she's just an incredible person. But it was just like we knew CF was a possibility, but this was another just punch to the gut, right? Just take all the wind out of your sails, and what are we going to do? And so he spent a bunch of time in the hospital. I could go into that story. That's a very long story, but he is an absolute rock star. 7 years old. I tell everybody all the time, moving down here to Texas, the only thing my 2 older boys don't like is that they no longer have first names. They're just Lincoln's brother. Oh, you're Lincoln's brother. You're Lincoln's brother. So
yeah.
um, while all this was going on, my brother and sister-in-law lived in Colorado near us, and we had always talked about doing a golf tournament for cystic fibrosis or doing something to raise money for cystic fibrosis, because at that time, all of our extracurricular, all of our money and stuff that we would donate went to CF. Well, then this Down syndrome piece comes into the fold, and my parents are asking, all of our parents are asking, what can we do to help? Where do we want to donate, but we don't know what to do. And finally, my brother calls me and says, we're starting a foundation, and we'll let our family give to the foundation. We're going to be in tune with both CF and Down syndrome communities, and they can donate to our foundation, and we'll go from there. And so Down for a Cure was created at my kitchen table one night, and back in gosh, it's almost 10 years now. So,
Wow.
no, I guess it'd be 7 years because Lincoln's 7. Sorry, but anyway, 7 years. 7 years ago, we created Down for a Cure through the help of my brother, and so it's myself, my wife, and my brother that are the top, the bottom, and the middle, and the ins, the outs, everything that goes on with the organization. And so we started with a golf tournament, and we didn't know what we were doing, and we just found a golf course, and we'd been to golf tournaments before, so we try to mimic some of those things and try to do our own. And we did our first golf tournament. We raised $10,000, and we thought we were just killing it. Right? We were ecstatic. People just told us how awesome it was, and all this stuff. So we were able to donate to the CF Foundation and the Down Syndrome Association in Colorado, and fast forward now, and this year we it was the second year that we've hosted a tournament in both Texas and Colorado. We
Yeah.
raised over $60,000 in Texas, and we raised over $50,000 in Colorado. So all in
Dude,
all, we raised over $110,000 in the two tournaments. And
that's huge.
um, so now we're just looking, right? Like we don't, none of the money goes to we don't take anything. There's no salaries. There's no nothing. So we honestly have an ability to help out in a lot of different ways. I think we just donated. We're going to donate $10,000 to the big walk up for Rocky Mountain Down Syndrome Association. Life Syverson, who's the president of our company, his granddaughter has Down syndrome as well, and his daughter Carmel has started an unbelievable foundation called Zoe's Toolbox. And Zoe's Toolbox, what it is when you're born with a child with Down syndrome, there's a lot of different needs that you have going home from the hospital. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of families like us who there's ways to find out if your child may or may not have Down syndrome in utero, but like we were going to love our child no matter what. So we didn't know. But at the same time, there's some things that you take home from the hospital, some books, some toys, some different things like that when Carmel reached out to us and said, this is what I'm thinking about doing, everything she was putting in Zoe's toolbox was stuff we used throughout the first 6 months of Lincoln's life. So she puts together these toolboxes and sends them to parents of kids with Down syndrome that are leaving the hospital. And she has blown that thing up, and it's done incredible. So actually October 4th, there's a golf tournament for her that we're going to be a part of. And so, but the most impactful thing we've done here recently, this last golf tournament, we got a family that was a lot of times with our foundation, these bigger organizations will reach out to us and say, hey, this family needs help, but it's too much red tape for us to do. Is there anything you can do?
Mm.
So Aaron met the wife. Long story short, read through her Caring Bridge post. They had been in the hospital for over 6 months with their fourth child, and he had Down syndrome.
Oh,
And I'll try to condense this as much as possible, but 2 months before the son was born, the dad had quit his job to start his own company. And he does this multifamily. He's got the chance to impact so many lives, right? Well, he had to put all that on hold. And so for 6 months, he was dad to the 3 that were at home, running back and forth to the hospital, doing all these things. And Aaron just connected with the wife in a way that it was a God thing, right? And so the whole time we're figuring out what we're going to do, they were in the hospital for 6 months. What can we do for you guys? So we ended up, once they got out of the hospital, we stayed in touch with them, helped them out any way we could. But then we said, look, you lost this 6 months in your business. We want to make sure that you don't have to give up your dream. So
wow.
we paid their mortgage for the next 6 months so that he didn't have to go back to corporate USA. He could still go pursue that dream. That's in turn going to affect. So it's not just Down syndrome, like he's going to go affect the lives of so many people with his business that he creates. And I truly believe, like just after meeting him for the 10 minutes that we did, like just incredible people and just a huge opportunity. That this is exactly like my wife said it when she handed me the phone to read some of the Caring Bridge, and she got tears in her eyes, and she says, this is why we started Down for a Cure.
Damn, that is a
Yeah.
fascinating story, man. Like,
Yeah.
just the level of selflessness to be able to do that, and to, I mean, again, changing that individual's life. I mean, you could have changed the trajectory of like generations to come through that type of donation and to help. And man, and so talk about the community aspect. I feel like like over time, you guys have grown, and I'm sure you've brought more people into the community, whether it be volunteering or people who may be faced with similar challenges. Talk about the community and maybe some of the things that you kind of like didn't expect that are now that you're experiencing.
Man, I got to talk about the oil and gas community because that's what this is. That's what's built it to what it is.
Yeah.
And you know it because you've seen it. I've always known there were generous people in the oil and gas community. And, we do all kinds of fundraisers for student, AADE and SPE and all these, and Oilfield Helping Hands is an incredible organization.
Yeah.
And they all do great things, but it's a big picture, and sometimes you don't necessarily get to see the fruits of the labor and things like that. So when we finally made the decision after the first golf tournament that we have to share what we're doing with this money so that people see where the impact that they're making,
Hmm.
that's when the switch flipped for us, and people just wanted to be involved because they found something that they could connect with. It was real, it was tangible. They know Jackson, they know Lincoln, they know Brock, they know Aaron, they know myself. And the selflessness of people. I've had people that have not missed a single golf tournament since year one. And that's in Colorado, that's Texas, that's going back and forth. People donate, people, I mean, look, like this last one, we had two, a lot of the people that play in it are my customers, which in turn they're competitors of one another. A lot of my customers are directional drilling companies or motor companies,
Yeah.
and these guys get in a room and we start doing an auction for a fishing trip to Port O'Connor. You and I know what a fishing trip to Port O'Connor costs, and I've got Lee Harns from Altitude, I've got Tanner Schwartz from Total, and they're on either side of the room. And I look and I go, we're auctioning off a trip to Port O'Connor, and Tanner starts it off $5,000. And before you know it, we've raised $18,000. Because
Wow.
I might have played off a little competitiveness between the two of those guys, but
Yeah.
just and they've both got two or three teams in the event already, and they've already donated, and it's just incredible. The Again, when you make personal connections with people, people are always like, "Man, why do you talk to so many people? Why are you always out, networking and all of that stuff?" Because it pays off. At the end of the day, if
Yep.
we don't have connections with people, then what do we have? Might
Hmm.
have a few bucks in the bank, you might have a nice car, but like that only gets you so far, right?
Yep.
And if you can make true heartfelt connections with people, and then they see when I talk about it or Aaron talks about it, the passion that we have for what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because truly we believe that CF is going to stand for cure found, not for cystic fibrosis, and we're
Wow.
close. And the
Man.
amount of money that these guys, and I try to explain to them all the time, we're just the conduit. You guys are the ones making the impact with all the money that they donate. Yeah,
Yep.
it's time for us, but at the end of the day, like if I can make $60,000 for a cause that goes to research that finds one more genetic transformation that helps CF go to the next level, like who cares how much time it costs, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, but the oil and gas community as a whole, and as we're getting bigger, my wife has started playing golf now that we live down here in Texas and we live
Oh,
close to a
good.
golf course, and so she's gotten into this group of women who they came out and played, and they'd never played in an oil field golf tournament. So there
Okay.
was food, and there were shots, and there was this, and this is the most incredible thing I've ever been a part of. I'm 72
Yeah.
years old, and I've never played in anything like this in my life. So the community is growing, and it's truly awesome to watch. And anytime I see, everybody asks me how many of those bracelets are you going to get on your wrist, and I said as many as it takes, because this is every golf tournament that we've had. Everybody's like, well, they can't stay on there. That gray one has been on there since 2018.
What?
Um,
Oh, so those are
so
all from each tournament. I was wondering, I was like, man, you got a lot of bracelets,
yeah,
man.
yeah. So anytime I see one of these out and about, people wearing them, it's just like,
Yeah.
that's another supporter. That's awesome. It's cool to see. Eventually, I'm
Wow.
going to have to I think I've talked myself into. I'm going to have to find a good tattoo guy and just turn this into a tattoo because it's getting to the point where they're getting a little snug up here towards the
Dude,
forearm. So
that'd be sick,
yeah,
actually. That's a really cool idea. And it's just a reminder of like what you're
yep.
building, how many people you're impacting, and the community that you're building. It's man, that is so cool. I love that. And again, a big shout out to you and everyone that's been involved. Um, give a little bit of update on when's the next one? Where do people sign up? If people want to get involved, like how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so we've got a website, downforacure.com, and look, like I tell you, it is just me, my brother, and my wife. So it is a very basic. It's got some pictures, it's got some stuff from the tournament, kind of
Yeah.
our story. We've posted some stories of people that we've helped out with their permission and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, downforacure.com. The next one will be in Texas in March. Typically, what I do is try to figure out when spring break is going to be for the kids, and then we do it the Monday after that.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So when everybody's back from spring break, just give them an extra day to get back into the swing of things and come out and have a good time at the golf tournament.
Yeah.
Weather's usually pretty good. It was a little chilly last year, but I'd rather have that than 115 that we've been dealing with the last 6 months. So,
Yeah.
uh, and then we do the last Friday in July in Colorado every year. So whatever
Okay.
that turns out to be, the last Friday in July, it's all tied to the oil and gas community. I go up to Casper for the Wildcatters golf tournament, which is an incredible golf tournament up there, and
Yeah.
then swing down, which is the third week of July, and then swing down to Colorado, hang out with my brother and sister-in-law for a while, and then put on that golf tournament the last Friday in July. So
Wow. Okay. No, that's
yeah.
good. I obviously here in Houston, I need to make sure we get involved with that one in March. Where do you guys play? Up north somewhere?
So we played this year at Walden, and they were so welcoming. After
Cool.
a lot, like a lot of things after COVID, a lot of cooking on the course and bringing your own tables and stuff like that has been shut down at a lot of different venues. But Walden was gracious enough to allow us. Hey, they said, you respect the course, you respect what we're doing, we'll let you do whatever you want to do, essentially. And so they let us bring cookers out. They let us bring, people set up. We had a cannon, a golf ball launcher. We had the whole nine
Yeah.
yards. So it was it was great, and I think we'll do it again at Walden next year. So that's the plan right now.
Man, that's fascinating. Well, I want to take a pivot and geez, I can't believe we're burning up so much time, but for all good reasons. This in itself was a would have made for a great episode. But I do want to talk a little bit about directional drilling technology. I mean, that's on your day to day, obviously, that's what I would imagine you spend a good majority of your time doing with Viking
Mhm.
Power Technologies. You've got a long standing career with in this field on the directional drilling and I guess the motor side of things. But
Yes, sir.
right now, I mean, what's got you most excited? I mean, I'm on the drilling fluid side, but obviously being at arm's length to directional drilling, aside from like, steering and being able to place a well within inches of where you want it to go, what's got you excited, and what kind of technologies are out there that maybe some that are sort of revolutionary or really moving the needle?
Yeah, man. I mean, the exciting thing for me in the power section world and in manufacturing is in general is there's a lot of problems in the oil and gas industry that we have to solve. That, hey, we got to get oil out of the ground. This rock is tough. This, the temperatures are high, things like that. So it's a lot of problem solving, right? And
Mhm.
the team that we put together at Viking is one that is not just a power section, but a bunch of people that only know power sections, right? We've come from the motor industry, we've come from the directional side of the business, we've run motor shops, so understanding the urgency that there is in the directional drilling world and the need to have answers right away and come up with solutions in a timely manner and then produce solutions that work
Yeah.
is awesome. Our latest elastomer technology is VPX, and it's an extreme. We call it VPX because it's an extreme elastomer. Whether it be extreme temperatures, extreme wear that you're seeing from whether it be fluids or whether it be downhole condition, whatever it may be, this elastomer has proven to be just second to none as far as reliability, especially in the heat.
Okay.
We've had a lot of success. It's been incredible out the gate to have that much success in the hot hole. And we've had wells that we've had power sections that have run for over 100 hours at 380 degrees and held up. One of the things that has helped with that is our ability to produce even wall technology. And so, for I guess the easiest way to describe it is for a conventional stator, it is a tube with elastomer put into it around a mold, and that mold gives you the configuration of your motor, right? So the old school, the tried and true 6 3/4, 7/8/50. Okay, so a rotor is a long piece of 17/4 that's milled, and it has peaks and valleys or lobes on it, right? And the 7/8 is the 7 is the number of lobes on the rotor, and then the 5.0 is how many times that lobe wraps around the rotor from one end to the next, from one end to the other. That determines speed, that determines torque, that determines just basically how the power section works. So in a conventional stator, that elastomer is injected into a piece of 4140 steel tube that is concentric all the way around. In an even wall stator, we design the inside of the stator to match the profile of the rotor. So rather than having thick parts of rubber and thin parts of rubber, or peaks and valleys in the rubber is the same all the way around. It is a metal contour inside of the tube that matches the contour of the rotor, and then you inject a thin layer of rubber on that. So what that does is it is more predictable swell from the elastomer, because again, you don't have really thick parts of it and really thin parts of it. And the easiest way to do this is to see it. So go to the website, vikingpt.com, and we've got some pictures and videos of it. But it's a great technology that people have used for a long time. But combining that with our VPX elastomer has proven to be really, really good for us. I mean, overall with Viking, though, the probably for me the most exciting thing is building something. Right? We started in April of 21 with 3 customers, and now we've got 82 plus customers. We've got we're going from Canada all the way throughout the United States. We're concentrating on North America, but Canada all the way through the United States. We've built proprietary models that are specific to customers. We've made industry standard models. We're trying to change the game from a sales and marketing standpoint, as far as build the relationships that you have, cultivate those relationships, and because all of our competitors have good technology. There's a lot of good technology out there, and so how do you differentiate yourself? Well, you're faster, you're quicker, you're more efficient, and you can be a problem solver for your customers. So that's been probably the most fun of the whole thing.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, you guys have seen some tremendous growth, man.
Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest limiter for just like further scale? Is it like supply chain, or is it just not enough manpower to put all this stuff together? I mean, what are you seeing any bit of headwinds with growth, or is it still, do you have a lot of momentum going?
I mean, we've got a lot of momentum going. Rig count is probably the one thing that holds us back the most. Initially, when we got into the business, supply was a problem. Raw material. We were still having a lot of issues with that. That has kind of corrected itself, and we've got a great plan with that going forward. From a growth standpoint, so we currently have 2 injection lines where we inject the elastomer. We have 3 what are called wine gardeners. It's the name of the machine, but they're the milling machines that mill the rotors. We currently have two injections and then 3 wine gardeners. By this time next year, we will have 3 injection lines and 6 wine gardeners. So, and that's starting to come in. Our 3rd injection line will come in next month. We're in growth mode, right? We don't want to slow down. We don't want capacity to ever be a limiter for us. So life has done this 2 times before, growing companies and in the power section industry. Tippy has obviously built a long career and built a massive machine shop and a great following of customers and friends. And so we're our biggest limiter, I guess. I mean, and the availability of rigs, right? You assume there's probably 4 to 5 motors per rig. So if there's 600 rigs, right, that's an opportunity for 3,000, call it 3,000 power sections, 3,000 relines at any given time, right? If you look at it that way, if I go up to 700 rigs, now that changes the game, and that can increase just by sheer availability of us being able to turn tools and help people out. And we've entered into the coil tubing through tubing space, so the production side. I mean, that has helped us grow as well. That's another area where we see exponential growth coming for us in that area as well, because it's just another opportunity. It's the same thing, but it's just on a much smaller scale, right? So
Yeah. Well, congrats, man. It's sounds like you guys are building and growing and putting all the right pieces together and likely a solid team too at that. I'm
yeah,
curious, like more on like I guess a technical side or more operations piece. What would you say is the biggest cause for like motor failures downhole? I mean, again, I'll come from the drilling space, so a lot of times we'll be hopping along, and all of a sudden, oh well, now we got to pull it because we've seen rubber coming across the shakers. We got to pull it out, and a lot of times
hmm
it's the mud's fault, of course. But like, what would you say is the biggest cause for most motor failures?
I would say probably the biggest cause is man, there's just so many things that go on downhole.
Yeah.
Reinvestment, reinvestment into the motor itself,
Okay.
meaning a rotor has a shelf life. It is a piece of metal. It gets worn out. You coat it with either carbide or chrome.
Yeah.
When the carbide or chrome gets worn out, you go send it out. It gets refurbished. And what we're seeing a lot now is there's a lot of worn out rotors being run, and everybody the minute a stator chunks, you see oh, it's bad elastomer. Well, there's a lot more that goes into it than just that, right? Um, and the other thing is we're constantly chasing our tail in the power section in the motor world in general, right? Um, 10 years ago, we couldn't get a power section to last more than 30 hours. 15, 20 years ago, we couldn't get a power section to last more than, 30 hours. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the invention of hard rubber comes out, and the MBR HR changes the game. And now it's putting out so much torque, we can't get a transmission to hold up to the power we're putting out in the power section. So we're constantly chasing the tail, and it's such a reactive business that it's hard to always be exactly right. So it's a combination of things. Sometimes it's drilling practices. Sometimes it's a bad rotor. Sometimes it's a problem with the reaction between the elastomer and the fluid that's being pumped down. I know that there's some new fluids being introduced and things like that. It's not just diesel based mud anymore. It's not just water based mud anymore. There's some different stuff out there now that we can do lab testing on and see how it affects our elastomer, and understanding how that fit determines how that motor performs and all that stuff. So some of it's an education piece, but at the end of the day, Tippy likes to say, hey, look, we're gluing some rubber into a piece of steel, and it's going 2.5 miles downhole. Sometimes you're going to have an issue.
Yeah.
So that is at the end of the day, that truly is what we're doing. So
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Again, it's something that there's so many different services that go into drilling a well, and a lot of times we don't talk to each other. And when things go wrong, it's like, well, it must be this or it must be that
yeah.
without having an understanding. So I appreciate you adding a little bit of color to that. And it's in the drilling fluid space, we actually did an episode on the flow line, which is a podcast that we do for AES drilling fluids, is about why chrome doesn't like chlorides. And the way we tried to explain it is because, like, to your point, a lot of folks in West Texas are drilling with a direct emulsion, which is like a diesel and brine. um
Mm-hmm.
and there's been challenges with, it's like, oh, the chrome, it's like, because chrome, from my understanding, gives you the best chance to prevent corrosion, and it's, I guess, the most robust, or one of the, besides, I guess, not titanium, there's another one.
It's carbide or chrome. Carbide it's just you've got benefits of each and downfalls of each, right?
Right, right, right. But so, and again, I guess I say that to say is like, there's a lot of the sort of the oil field boogeyman that creep up every once in a while, and then we have to try and figure this out. But who knows? We might be reaching out to you for information or maybe a little bit of clarity on some things at some.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's one of the biggest things is like we all call on the same customers. We all talk to the same people, and it's like, oh, we're gonna put our head down and pass each other in the hallway as we're going to our next meeting. Like, well,
Yeah.
let's sit in there together and figure it out, right? One of the big things that I've seen is like, if we come out with a proprietary power section, I'm going to go let the bit guy know first. Hey,
Yeah.
these are the specs of this. Make sure that because that's where technology is really taking off, in my opinion, in directional drilling is the bit technology, right? And but I also know that affects the power section, which is also going to affect the fluid, which is also going to affect everything. So
Mm.
If you have those conversations at first, like we just made the best power section in the history of the world, and then the bit can't keep up with it. Well, now I didn't get a good run on my first power, best power section ever. So it is, you have to have that full conversation. And that is one thing that we like to do with our customers is like, let's go talk to the end user together, not
Yeah.
like you go get Chinese telephone started and I get Chinese telephone, and then we come back
Yeah. Yeah.
together and we're doing three different things. Like, let's go
Yeah.
talk to them together and let's go solve a problem together so that we're in
100%.
this. There's buy-in from the operator, there's buy-in from the directional company, there's buy-in from us, and now we're all working on a project together.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think collaboration among service providers that are all trying to reach the same goal
Yeah,
is super critical. And a lot of times it's always been, like you say, we'll pass each other in the hallways with our head downs. And but the reality is that we all affect each other to some degree. So why not work together?
yeah,
Especially if you're not in a competing space. It's like, why wouldn't you? And it, it's easier said than done. Everyone's busy, and
for
it's like,
sure.
unless it's part of the critical path, it's like, why would I spend time going to talk to a motor guy when, like, I'm just trying to make sure that we can, service the customer. So
Yeah,
it's easier said than done, but I think effort getting put into that. And we've even done it across different disciplines, especially, mud and soils control is
yep.
one that comes hand in hand. And, but no, I think it'd be neat to carry the conversation, but we'll leave that for another day. We're coming up close to the end of the hour here. Nick, is there anything else that you'd like to relay to folks, whether it's coaching or the golf tournament or fatherhood? I mean, anything on your mind that you would use as a Friday freebie if you just had to just think of something?
Man, if I had to do a Friday freebie right now, I would think it's what we talked about earlier, right? And it's just been on my mind the last couple of days is like, our lives are, suffering is a part of our lives. And a lot of times, just like everything in this world, we want to get through suffering as quickly as possible, right? And it is oftentimes it's the have you heard the buffalo and the cow? I think I did that one a couple weeks ago. But the difference between a buffalo and a cow is like when they sense a storm is coming, a cow will lay down and
Yeah.
just take that storm, right? And just take that storm, and it'll last forever. The buffalo will sense the storm and he'll run right at it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So to me, that's just a powerful message. And he doesn't spend as much time in the storm because he ran at it head on and he took it on, right?
Yeah.
um, to me, that's a powerful message of just, of, are we going to look at this as, are we going to feel sorry for ourselves, or are we going to look at this as an opportunity? There's
Yeah.
going to be trials, there's going to be tribulations. So we can sit there and my old stationary bike saying is, stationary bike is fun. It gives you something to do for a while, but it doesn't get you anywhere, right? It's just like feeling sorry for yourself. It gives you something to do for a while, but feeling sorry for yourself doesn't get you anywhere. So, I
100%.
always challenge my kids to look at it as an opportunity, right? Kid came home with a bad grade the other day, and I said, "Oh, okay, cool. All right, what are you gonna do about it?" Well, I can't do anything about that one. That one's done. You have an
Right.
opportunity to get better now. You have an opportunity to learn from that test and then go take the next one and do better. Look at it
Yep.
as an opportunity. Don't look at it as a problem. And that would be my Friday freebie.
Man. Well, that's it. You heard it here, folks. That's a mic dropper right there. We're gonna leave it at that. For everyone out there, really appreciate you listening. Again, connect with Nick on LinkedIn. I'll put his LinkedIn link in the show notes. And then I'll put the vikingpt.com on there as well. And again, thanks for joining me, Nick. It's always a pleasure. Appreciate everything you're doing. Man, you deserve a huge pat on the back, man. You're truly making a difference. And for everyone out there, let's make sure we are approaching energy with a radically open mind. Be kind, and always remember that everyone deserves access to energy, and we is greater than me. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Justin.